The first things you do, by the way, pass out these the skill sheets, the medical ones. Take both, just pass them around. When you look at your skill sheet, look at the medical one, and you can just follow along. You'll see the step process. This is one of the most lengthy skills that you're going to do. So I want you to have the skill sheets with you. But it is an uncontrolled environment. That's what I like about it. That's why I'm not a nurse, because I like the uncontrolled environment. The unpredictability of a scene, that's what I like. I don't like being confined to a hospital. There are some hazards that we'll talk about. And so one of the first things, BSI, was the scene safe, BSI, and then do your size up. And this is just that one line on there doing the size up. It is an ongoing process, all right? So you want to identify the hazards. And this here goes down the skill sheet. If you look at the skill sheet, identify hazards, determine the nature of the problem, recognize the need for additional resources. This is just going down your skill sheet there. Okay? Do I need other people? PSI, evaluate the hazards if there's any. All right? Determine the mechanism of injury, the nature of illness. And like I said, this is just reading down the skill sheet, really. Determine the number of patients. Is there more than one patient? Do I need another ambulance? Do I need somebody with the jaws of life or whatever, right? Okay? So there is an bad when they're talking about putting bulletproof vest on EMS workers. All right? That's not really our function. But the increase in violence is getting there. So they're coming in with a firearm, right? That's not part of our function, so it's abnormal to do that. Wow. Yeah, so a lot of, people are crazy. You know, you're there on drugs, or they're intoxicated, or whatever the case may be. There's a lot of EMS injury out there due to the patients. I can't, and I won't bore you with the stories, but I'm telling you, I can't tell you how many times, and they're mad. The first thing I do is remind them that it's a felony. When they touch me, it's a felony. I'm a public servant, so it's a felony if you do that. Then remind them of a few other things. You know, show them my tattoo maybe. We have a short talk, and then a lot of times they do. Otherwise, you just have to try to de-escalate them, change their mind. Your PPE, your gloves, your BSI is automatic. You get the call, you automatically put your gloves on. Okay, that's just an automatic thing that you do. You're finding the location of the call, you put your gloves on. So you automatically have your BSI and your gloves on. We'll get into this. I'll show you some pictures. Pictures worth 1,000 words that we'll look at. We'll make sure that you have the proper protection on against. See, like these guys are doing. Hey, this guy's not doing the extrication. This is one of his role is to transport the patient. That's why he doesn't have turnout gear on. Okay. So they all have their own protective gear on, face shields, and towards the end. But make sure that you have your own gear on. See the reflective vest. Any kind of MVC, motor vehicle collision or wreck, when you're out on the pavement, you have to wear a reflective vest now. You have to exercise the leadership and the control of the scene. Take control of the scene, all right? I know that it's, at first it seems sort of rude and abrupt, okay? But when you're in someone's house, you take control of that. You're in control of the scene. I know that they live there and it's their house, but again, can't tell you how many times I've told people, this is my house for the next few minutes. All right? okay? And they yell and cuss, and this is my house. I'm like, not right now. Just help me out here, okay? Let me do my business. The dispatcher can give you an abundance of information. There's always sort of a rift between the EMS guys and dispatch, okay? But they can give you an abundance of information on the scene. Hear somebody cussing, screaming, does the patient sound intoxicated, right? It's safe. Once dispatch tells you that the scene is unsafe, it is unsafe until dispatch clears you. That's the norm. Yeah. So there could be, of course, there could be infectious disease, right? There could be blood everywhere. There could be down power lines. There could be we can't say, oh, I'm not getting out of the ambulance because it's straight down lightning, right? The patient still has to require some help. So there's a danger that straight down lightning, right? So you control that. Okay? Crime scenes we'll talk about in a little bit. And then do I need extra resource? Do I need extrication? Some pictures with people on ice, this high angle rescue. You can count me out of that. Rescue, I don't like heights, right? Water rescue, hazardous material, we have a whole chapter on, okay? Same, you're lifeguard? Yeah, so you've been trained in that. You may think you're a good swimmer and you're going to swim out and get this person out of the water until you get close enough and they use you as a cork. That person's really panicking because they're having trouble in the water. You swim out there to get, they're going to jump on your shoulders and they're going to push you under the water. Nervous system are they operating under?
Sympathetic.
Yeah, they have fight or flight, that sympathetic nervous system, and they're strong. They'll push you straight under the water. So you look here, down power lines. When you come up to a scene, you have to be really observant. You observe everything. And after a number of years, you will continue part of the size up. Okay? It's just like this. Look over here, and I'm not bagging on you. But I turned around and you're almost asleep. Yeah, your eyes are closed. You're if I wouldn't say anything, I'd just let you fall asleep. But it's just an observation, right? So even though she's denying it, but it's still, you're right there. Okay, so those are things that you observe. It's just natural. You observe everything, and you see in your brain, and you see things are taking place, okay, and you see things are not taking place. And you evaluate that, and if it's nothing, then you push it aside. If it's something, then you wait, what is that, you know? You guys do the same thing, right? Everybody does that. Everybody does that drives a car, I hope, right? You know, so you guys still do it. It's just you just think something of it. Again, you can't emphasize enough that your safety is paramount. You can't help anybody if you're the injured one. It only hurts you. Other unstable cars on top of, hanging off of the bridge, upside down, in water, been in them all, okay? But after they've been stabilized. You know, pouring down rain, I'm on top of a car over a bridge, which is scaring the crap out of me to begin with because of the bridge. I'm looking straight down to Interstate 30, going straight down like this. It's pouring rain and everything's slippery. That's a hazardous situation to be in. But I would have messed my pants but I wouldn't have hit the ground because I was tied off on a rope, okay? It would have been time to go home and change clothes again, but it was fairly safe, right? And then a crime scene, volatile, you always wait for the police. A lot of these things that they're talking about, the police would already be there. You wouldn't be there, okay? So in some of these, but there are some other risks. So on your scenes, portable radio, portable communication. You bring that portable radio. If there's a problem, you key it, and like our code was code B. I'd key that radio up. I say code B, or you have to identify yourself. They won't know who's in trouble. Medic 1, code B. Boom. That's all I say. And then every cop in town would just descend upon that scene almost. Right? It's cool looking, but you only say that. You don't say it to see all the lights. You call what's that? Little Red Riding Hood did, or they call it?
Oh.
The boy who cried wolf.
Well, yeah, there you go. Okay. Well, there's one of them, right? Boy, girl, Red Riding Hood. Okay, so anyhow, there's agencies that will help you, but you have to be. You don't do the cell phone because it takes too long. Radio's almost instant. Key it, hits dispatch. Medic 1, they know where you are now, especially with GPS and everything. They know exactly where you are. Hit it, code B, release it, try to get out of the scene. Okay? Traffic's a problem. Traffic's always a problem when you get in there. When you guys do your ride outs, exit through the back of the ambulance. Always. There's an exit through the side, but exit through the back. Always. Especially if you're on a crash or something, an MVC, you exit through the. They won't pull over for an ambulance over to the other lane. They'll run right by you, right down the side. Okay. If you have to get in the vehicle, make sure it's stable. Look around. Make sure that there's not fluid leaking out. That it's safe for you to work there. Oh, I hope we never see that. But orange. That's the only way I would survive that if we have playing with orange golf balls, so you can see them, which I've done. Have you ever played in the snow? It's fun. It's like hitting in the sand trap every hit, but sometimes the ball buries. But anyhow, the pole there creates a danger until they get the electricity. Hazardous material. These guys in the suits wear those because they're not cool looking. It protects them. Okay, we have a whole chapter on this. We'll talk about hazardous material. You'd stay away from it. All right, it's not our level of certification. Crime scenes is a big thing where we talk about you want to protect the crime scene. You need to help the patient, but you also need to protect and preserve the crime scene. Okay, and as a student, you guys probably won't be entering in on crime scenes unless they just need your help. They're going to have you wait outside. If I'm on a crime scene and I go in and I don't need my partner, he stays outside or she stays outside because you want to limit the number of people on the crime scene. And I think there's sort of a list we'll work off of. Crashes. You don't necessarily want to be in that truck, right? Unless it's stabilized, unless it's tied down. You have to think about that for a little bit. You have other things, metal, airbags. Are they deployed? Right? You go in there, you're on the passenger side, front end collision. They haven't cut the batteries, and that doesn't really matter. They can still deploy. You have your face. Patient and the airbag goes off and hits you in the face. Here, it's on YouTube. Watch it. It's fatal. It can be fatal. The thing comes out like 200 miles an hour. So you have to be careful of that airbag, right? Because a front end collision, it should have deployed, should have went out. So it didn't for some reason. So you don't know why. Fire. You know the fire. Stay away from fire, right? Fuel's a problem with the spark. Depends on what kind of fuel. you know, what kind of flash point does that fuel have? If it's jet fuel, okay, you know, you have a tanker and you have jet fuel on the ground, a little mouse could pass. Your static electricity can set off jet fuel. So you, again, back to the hazardous material, you look at that, oh, we need to talk about that, you know, and that's for a later day, okay? Wear your vest when you're out on the road, okay? And definitely try to keep out of traffic. Don't walk between cars. We were standing in between, we were here, and I say don't, and I did anyway, but I walked between these cars here, and I got over to this side, and the drunk hit a sheriff's car, hit that car, twisted into this car. So, another person in jail, but, you know, if I was standing here, then I could have been crushed by this car. So stay out, if all possible, stay out between the cars, right? And they're shut down traffic. You guys are you drivers, right? Everybody drives. You've been stuck in traffic before because of a wreck. Yeah, they're shut down. They park that engine across 2 lanes or so, and they're shut traffic down, right, for your protection. Flares, cones. Some people put the rescue. They might put that out. Flares is usually a cop thing. They'll put that out. But you do want to position your vehicles in. So you have the wreck, right? Down here you have the engine, and you have this space in between, and then here you would pull in here. Front of the wreck, it's behind the wreck, okay, or you could pull in front if there's room here, okay, and then turn out this direction, turn out so you engine. There'll always be a fire engine there with you on the wreck. So the engine's here, your ambulance is here, turn out so you can get out here or park on this side. Ambulance too close and then you block traffic. The other thing to look at, and we'll talk about it later today, is a helicopter. If you plan on landing a helicopter, you don't want to block in other ambulances. But you don't want to land your helicopter back here, because if you the LZ, the landing zone, so you would want to land your helicopter down here, so you're not blocking vehicles to keep the flow going. Yeah, don't watch the movie. Do get to where you're safe on the right side of the road. Okay. Something to keep in mind: the person that hit the sheriff's vehicle, they drove right into the flashing lights. It's like a bug in the light. They go right towards it. Okay, for some reason. And then like we talked about, turn your wheels out. Don't stand between the vehicles. Okay. You might have, and again, we have a chapter on chemical, biological, and nuclear weapons, perhaps, and that's a huge concern. That's for another day, but be aware of that. You have heights, natural disasters like floods, hurricanes, right? Lightning for confined space, just like for ice rescue. All these guys here, posing for the picture, been trained, then you wouldn't go out there, right? Because you could be another patient. So all these guys have been trained to do that. Water rescue, rapid. We just did this, right? All the take hardly any water to move you or your vehicle, okay? But there's swift water rescue training. There's that. You have that type of training. We tried to do that one time. We just never could get permission. We were going to go down to float the river and do. That'd be a fun trip. Yeah. As long as you can swim. Caves, collapses, storage tanks. I've been trained in confined when we had to go down into these soil pushed down into the containers. Soil pushed down into the container, right? So the equipment works, and a lot of them are, you know, like fish in North Texas. So we don't really concentrate a lot. They concentrate a lot on you know, ocean animals and things. Okay. So the just slippery, unstable rocks, stones. Remember, if it's wet, clinical time that won't slip, that you have good traction with. Protect your ankles as well. Be all kinds of different. It's just a matter of, you know, you get there and nobody's pulled this. Have backup plans. Sometimes you may have to wait for the right pull. Here you would, right? If you were first on scene and the guy was floating up like a popsicle out here, then you would have to wait on somebody that's trained in that. Same way. So we got that. Water is huge. It's a huge specialized training to go through there and get that endorsement, get that training, to go through there and get that endorsement, get that training that I have. A quick story. Went out, it was like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, complaining of chest pain. We get out there and there are cops, and they came up, and her sons are all crack cocaine dealers. Well, why don't you go in and introduce us first? Go ahead. And when you got in there, it was that kind of environment. You could tell. Those were some mean-looking people. Granny was even mean. Okay? And so the police got there. You have to be careful down in South Hunt County, right? You go in there and you smell these smells, and you need to get out because it could explode, right? Use the sense of smell to help protect you. You go into somewhere that's unsafe, you know, told you. So you would never go into a crime scene before the police has secured it. Okay? You try to protect as much forensic evidence as possible. Okay? So keep that in mind. Your primary goal is patient care. Okay? Your primary goal is patient care. But your secondary goal is not to trash the crime scene. Okay? They may tell you to turn off your sirens and everything else before you get there. Okay? You don't go in like I'm they may not want you to come in yet, and so you would park down the block. We would park several blocks away, actually, in our protocol. So we're backing down the street, okay, to get out of there. So they changed that and said, park 2 or 3 blocks away. May still be in the crowd, okay? Again, been on scenes, we're trying to load up the patients, and they are in and drive off. We'll take care of the patient. If we have to stop, we'll take care of them down the block, away from that scene, okay? Is to control the chaos. Definitely. You know, in this saying, approaching the scene, you know, file, okay? That, you know, they're talking about hold the flashlight out here, because if you hold the flashlight here, if someone wants to shoot you, then they have an aiming point. They have the light, right? So that's all that rhetoric's about. But really, the police would already be there and have the scene secured, okay? But you want to be cautious and make a plan. Like, if we have to evacuate, if we have to leave this quickly, this is what we're going to do. And you do that before you get there. Okay? Don't stand in front of the doors. Knock to the side of the doors, right? If you're unsure if the scene is safe, get out. Don't go in there. Just wait until the police secures the scene. So maybe it's not an even thing they call the police on, and you pull up, and the hair on the back of your neck stands up. Even me, okay. And you're going, man, I just don't feel right. Something that gut instinct doesn't feel right about this. Then wait and call the police. Let them secure the scene for you. That's the safe thing to do. Then it can get crazy. You're with the patient now, and you're trying to take care of the patient. Things get crazy. You just have to expedite things. Make sure that you have a route out, okay? And then take the patient with you when you leave. And limited number responders, don't touch anything you don't have to. Yeah, the patient may be the bad guy, right? So that's something you have to watch out for. Dogs is a problem. The Cujos that are trying to eat you alive. Everything on there, so you have to keep an eye out. But again, your task is to offer help, not to could be evidence. You don't really want to you don't want to disturb. You want to leave as much of the evidence there as possible. And don't leave your trash. Actually, I think they bag your trash. Like, if I'm having to pull out a lot of different bandages and everything, they may want that for evidence. Stuff that you used in the ambulance. Check with the police. They may want to bag that up for evidence. They may want your clothes for evidence. All right, so that could be it. You're picking up the patient. You're working around the patient. You may have evidence on you. And then the picture about keeping the light away from you and all that. Sort of funny, but walking single file, nah. I mean, you know, we'll just walk up there, but we're having good to the side of the door. Okay. Questions so far? Everybody doing okay? Just a few more minutes, we'll be done. Bars, chaotic. Everybody's intoxicated, most of them. Most everybody's intoxicated in there. So you have to, again, take control of the scene. But remember, everybody's intoxicated. So they think that they want to help you. Again, this is what the police is for. The police is to secure the area. Okay? A barroom scene since the police would go in all realistic viewpoints, the police would go in with you, okay? It's dark, so, you know, looking at the patient or examining the patient, the best thing to do is try to, as fast as possible, get them out of the bar, get them into back of your ambulance, okay? So it can be more predictable. Then be ready for the patients to, they could get hostile with you. Even though they're mad, don't try to escalate it, right? De-escalate the scene. Passengers are the same thing. You're unsure of the passenger, right? So don't take for granted that the passenger is a nice person. Keep an eye on the passenger. Watch the passenger. If you have any doubt about the passenger, have the passenger exit the vehicle. Have them go away from the vehicle. Hey, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Would you wait over there in the front of the ambulance? Okay. Remember, you're in control of the scene. So if they don't do what you say, the police will make them do what you say. Okay. So keep that in mind. A lot of ambulances have dash cams on them now, but like I said, if there's any sort of trouble, the police would be there with that. Number scare the pee out of you, they sit up. So you walk up to a car and you're sizing it up. If it's dark, you take your flashlight and you look in the back seat, look in the front seat, look for things, sharps, needles, guns, right? Different things in the car as well. And again, if you have any question about it, just back away. So what about the patient? We still have a right. We still have an obligation to protect the patient, right? Okay. So make sure that they're buckled in on the cot correctly. You protect them from harm. Again, that person that assaulted them may still be there. Now you have them strapped down. You want to keep that person away from your patient, right? Even if it's not physical, even if it's just verbal. In crowds, there's always onlookers. There's tons of bystanders. I don't really worry about protecting the bystanders. They're on their own. That's a police matter. But they can cause problems. A lot of problems. So you have to be aware. And this scene right here can get chaotic really quick. You'll want to really try to get the patient out and get going as soon as possible. All right. Work light. Sometimes you have to move people's furniture. You have to move the patient. Always maintain a good route to get out. And you pay attention to everybody on the scene. Probably the only people you don't have to pay attention to is your other out, you know. So if you're not paying attention to the police and the police go, get out. You know, if they're across the room and they're telling you to get out, right, you're not paying attention, then, right? So you need to make sure that you're paying attention to the police, everybody in there. Do cactus, diplomacy, good things to have, like I said, de-escalate, be flexible. I'm not really open-minded that much, but do be alert and empathetic with the patient if it's the right situation, right? And it's an ongoing process. Your safety and the scene size up. It's an ongoing process that we do. All right. Questions there? That's a lot to cover on just scene safety. Okay, but it's that important that you want to make sure that, hey, I'm safe. I feel safe in here. All right. You got 10 minutes in you? Can I go 10 more minutes? You got it? Y'all need a break, or you want to go 10 minutes? I know.
I read that.
10 minutes? I'll stop at 2. Okay, I'll stop in 10 minutes whether I'm done or not. Good? Okay, this just goes down your skill sheet, the nature of the problem. What is the problem? You have the mechanism of injury. Is there a high suspicion of index of suspicion on what is it? A stabbing? Is it chest pain? That would be nature of illness. But what is it? What's the mechanism of injury? Don't worry, we'll revisit this when we visit trauma. We talked a little bit about it last year, right? High mechanism, low mechanism of injury, right? Falls, crashes, ATVs, motorcycles, pedestrian struck, boom, right? Stabbing, shooting, burns. People falling off high structures, getting hit by golf balls, the rear end collisions, rollovers. All these have different index of suspicion as far as the mechanism of injury. So these are things that you would examine. We're examining these closely when we look at trauma. Side impacts, ejections, right? I mean, the list just keeps going on and on. I mean, what do you look for? A broken steering wheel, a broken seat in the car. I mean, there's a lot that goes into this, and you'd want to examine that. You would want to look at sort of the mechanism on how things have happened. Are the airbags deployed? Right? Is there intrusion into the vehicle? So different things add all this up. Is there a starred window where the guy has hit his head on the window, right? From not being seat belted, or the seat belt not working correctly. Is there somebody in the vehicle that has crashed that has been ejected? 75% chance of death being thrown out of a car. Or is there a fatality in the vehicle in the same compartment as another person? That raises the level, the mechanism of injury as well. So again, this is really for a later date, but we'll take a close look at that. Got some cool pictures, right? Motorcycle wrecks are always a high level of high mechanism because you don't have anything around you to protect you, right? And then ejections we talked about, rollovers, sports injuries, involving the neck injuries. Again, another chapter when we look at trauma, penetrating gunshot wounds, exit wounds, stabbings, exposures to other things, right? So, high mechanism, low mechanism. It is important to look at explosions. You have debris flying everywhere. You have concussive force. It's the force of the explosion against the body, that the body absorbs the force of the explosion, can cause internal damage. Okay? Not like on TV where they get up and walk away from a big explosion. It just doesn't happen that way. I've been around big explosions, and it made my chest hurt from the explosion, all that force going into the body. Medical, nature of illness. So what's wrong with the patient? What is their illness? Okay, you have to look around. Do they have a lot of medicine laying around the scene? Right? Oxygen, are they on home oxygen, right? And then look for multiple patients. You might have a mass casualty incident or an MCI. This is look at that, 5 minutes. 5 minutes early. Okay. So there's a lot of things to look at, and a lot of things that you're responsible for. But the thing about this size up, it's an ongoing process. But you gather all this information at once, really, and you sort of have to sort what's important out and what's not important. And you're always having to do that. Is this important? Is this not important? Right? And so you keep working on it and sorting that out. And okay, this could be dangerous, so I put that, and I need to remember this, right? This is nothing going on. Someone you know, taking video, that's not important, right? That person over there pacing, walking around in circles, talking to pacing, they look mad. Okay, I'm gonna keep that guy in mind. So, and just as you go through, you sort of size this stuff up, okay? It's a learned process to do. If you don't go into EMS and you're still used to this to a certain degree in nursing and medicine, okay, in life, right? Have good situational awareness. Be aware of your situation. That helps out quite a bit.